All right, 3, 2, 1. We're live, Ryan.
Here we go. Episode 38.
Wow.
Dude, we're getting up there, man. Getting close to big 4-0.
It's a trip.
You got some like black balloons or something. It's all downhill after that, dude.
Dude, I was like setting up today. I'm like, what episode? I was like, we're close to 40.
Mhm.
40.
Dude, you know what's funny, man? Like 40s now, because I'm turning 45 in like a week, And actually, by the time this comes out, I think might be 45. I don't know. I'm bad with dates. but dude, the 40s have been like my favorite decade so far, man.
Yeah.
I feel like 20 was just like a whirlwind of what the fuck. 30s, like, okay, I'm kind of getting my shit together. And 40, I'm like, dude, this is good. I feel like I have a lot more control, a lot more stability, a lot more fun,
Right.
Yeah, but it's definitely 40 now is different than it was when our parents were 40.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Because for you, you're like 20 was hectic because you were in SEALs, right?
Yeah.
In your 20s. 30s, you're like, I'm figuring it out, right? And
I'm
then
supposed
40.
to be an adult.
Yeah. But do you feel like this is the most exciting part of your life right now in your 40s?
I think I'm finally realizing how much actual opportunity there is to do all the shit that I thought was impossible. And it's nice to have that realization and be able to pick and choose a lane and like really see the path forward. Because one of the only things about getting older is you just see patterns. You recognize patterns easier. So it's easier to not make the same mistakes again. And like you figure out like who is successful in what endeavor. And then you can usually like roadmap it out, based on their experience. But I remember when I was 38, let's see, I met Disney when I was 36. So we've been dating for 2 years. I think she had just started working for the company like full time. I think she had just left nursing and was helping me with industry full time. So that'd been like 2016, I think. Yeah. So industry was in its first year, 2016, and she was helping me like build it out and run it.
That's a trip.
It was a lot, man. It was a lot to deal with, like having a person who's, new relationship, and then she's new to business, and then like I'm trying to teach her and train her and lead her in this new endeavor, and she's creating a whole new skill set for herself and realizing that she's actually really good at it, and then finding like ways to use that skill set within the company and see real results. So it was powerful for her too, because I think she was 24 at the time, like 2 years in. So for her to kind of like be able to like, I mean, you could see her like come into her power kind of thing, start working within her skill set. And like, she's, it's been good. And then she became COO and then now CEO, and now she runs the whole shit. It's great. Now I get to do podcasts.
I think that's a perfect segue into leadership. And that's what our podcast is, because you had to train Disney, so like you lead Disney that way.
Well, it's funny, dude. Like, the topic today is leadership, but as I was driving in, I was realizing, dude, I actively avoided leadership positions for a long time. Even in the military, like I was a 60 gunner and a sniper, but like I would actively avoid trying to be in leadership positions because I didn't want to be in charge of shit. I found it annoying and frustrating, and you're never going to please everybody. And just a lot of responsibility that I didn't want. I just wanted to go do my job and do the fun shit and have fun with my bros and like, I don't know, do SEAL shit.
Yeah, right.
Do frogman things. I didn't want the responsibility. And I thought that was, in my mind at the time, that was like, looking back, this is stupid. But at the time I was like, that's noble because I don't want to lead. I just want to do my job. But I'm thinking like, dude, if you really want to impact people and you really want to do a good job, and the extrapolation of what a good job and what that means is like completing the mission, but not just that mission, but like the overall mission of beyond that mission, like the war in whatever capacity, like in entrepreneurship is like a war and you have battles. And so you could win the battle and lose the war. And I wasn't focused on the bigger picture. I was just focused on, my little fucking section of it. And even my first couple of years in entrepreneurship, I avoided leadership. I don't know, maybe I was afraid of it or whatever, but like I was number 2 in Forge. Mike was the president and I was vice president, and I did all the designing, but I was happy with that role. I really enjoyed being like number 2. It was frustrating when like the decisions that I didn't agree with some of the decisions that were made, and it was like, well, fuck, if I don't agree with them, but I'm number 2, like I have to be number 1 to affect the change that I want and make the decisions that I think are best. So that was kind of like, okay, I need to step more into a leadership role, but I still avoided it because even when I was building all these companies, I never really had any employees. Even with Forge, we had a few employees, but we were shit bosses, and we didn't know how to hire people. We didn't know how to train them or lead them or anything. We just expected them to like do their job, and for the most part, they fucked up a whole bunch of shit. And looking back, I'm like, dude, that's not their fault. Like, we just didn't know how to hire people, and we weren't leading them at all. We were just giving them an opportunity and then thinking that they were going to be like us and go do the right thing. And we're like, well, that wasn't the fucking case. But it wasn't until we started growing industry. It was actually a conversation I had with my buddy Brandon. And we're talking about like goals for the company and what he wanted to do with his company, what I want to do with my company. And I was like, dude, I want to build a big company, but I'll just want to outsource everything. And I'll work with other companies that will hire people. I don't want to have any employees. And he looked at me and he's like, dude, you're never going to build the size company you want unless you deal with getting better at understanding people and leading people. I was like, nah. He's always been a couple of years ahead of me in business. And it took me about a year and a half or 2 years to realize he was totally fucking right. He was absolutely right. There's no way to build a company past a couple $1 million before you start to, because past that point, you have systems and processes, and then people have to run the systems and processes. So you have to, at a certain point, hire people. And now you're hiring people. You have to train them. You have to lead them. You have to hire the right people. You have to motivate them. You have to show them the opportunity that you're building for them. There's a lot that goes into it, man. And I ran into some real problems when I started to try to become a leader because I didn't know how to do it, and I wasn't very good at it. In fact, I was probably pretty bad at it. And so I was learning as much as I could about leadership, and I listened to a lot of Jocko's stuff, who's fantastic at leadership, really phenomenal. And so I was listening to his podcast. I'm like, okay, this is how I do it. I forget what it's called, like disassociated command or distant command. But basically where you let people run their own shit. I'm like, cool, that's great. That's what I love to do. Hire good people, trust them.
Not to micromanage in that
I don't want to micromanage them. Like, just expect them to do their job and, encourage them and compensate them and be good to go. I'm like, oh, this is leadership, right? And I was... because I was always on the creative side, it was hard for me to hire people and let them do their job because they weren't doing, in my mind, they're not doing as good as me. So I had to go through that process of letting go and realizing that they're never going to get to 100% of what I'm happy with. But if the customer is, if my 80% so if the employee does what I would consider an 80 or 90% job, that's not 100% to my expectations, but the client views it as 100%, that's a win. And it took me a long time to learn that because I would over deliver on so much stuff that the client didn't care about. Like they couldn't tell the difference between 80% and 100%. I'm trying to tell them, like, oh, look at this layer, look at this vector pack, look at all this. It's all fucking detailed. And they're like, dude, that's nice. I don't care. So I would spend all this time and extra energy trying to do things that really didn't matter to the customer. So that was a big revelation for me that that's a failure on my part to not understand the product market fit of the services that we were delivering. We're just over delivering stuff that the clients didn't care about at all. So once I realized that, I was like, okay, it's easier for me to step away, let the employees deliver an 8 or 9% product, train them up to that, and the customer's 100% happy. Cool, I'm okay with that. And then I realized I got some feedback that I was being a little bit too micromanaging, I guess. Honestly, looking back, I just hired the wrong people, and they just weren't good with criticism or constructive criticism.
Because the field you're in is all creative, like artistically.
It's a mix of like the creative, like blending the creative language and the technical language of a print shop to like kind of, we're translator in between those two worlds. So a lot of highly detailed stuff, but you still have to understand art. So I was trying to like let people go, and I was trying to not be micromanager. So we'd hire people and let them do stuff, and I'd be like, okay, cool, yeah, you go do it. Like our CFO, like, oh, well, yeah, you've got a degree, you doing this? Like, okay, go ahead. And I don't want to micromanage, so I'll step out. And I was trying to do that. And that's when shit hit the fan, because I had was not doing what Ed always suggests, like inspect what you expect. And so I'd gone so far the other way where I wasn't micromanaging, but I was way too far off the reins as well. And I wasn't checking on shit. I wasn't making sure that the expectations that I had in my mind were actually being satisfied. I was just like, I was trying not to be overbearing. And I realized that I went way too far on the other end and shit just got out of control. So I had to step back in and grab the reins. And once I did, I found that middle ground is usually the best place to be, where you understand the significance of your role and how to impact people in the right way, to where they understand the job they're supposed to do and the requirements of it, but they don't feel like you're looking over their shoulder. They feel like you trust them.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a delicate balance. But the biggest thing I learned from that was that a tiger can only change its stripes so much before it's not a fucking tiger. And I am a tiger, and I was trying to be a little fucking pussycat, and then shit went wrong. I'm like, no, I need to step back in and be more of a fucking tiger.
Yeah.
And if people don't like it, fuck them. Get the fuck out. Like, you're not the right fit. You're not the right people for us anymore. But it was, that was a big change for me, because when I was in the military, like, my whole leadership style was like, there's a quote from, you ever seen that movie Demolition Man? 1993. What year were you born? Like
95.
95? Shit. Dating myself. But it came out, it was with Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone, and Dennis Leary was a big comedian at the time. And he had a role in there, and Stallone was giving some shit or something. His character goes like, I'm not a leader. Like, I just do what I have to do. And sometimes people come with me. That was kind of how I approached leadership. Like, I'm just going to do what I think is right. And if people want to come with me, awesome. But I never looked at myself like a leader, because I was avoiding it. But there's no way to build what I want to build without stepping into leadership in a big way. So that's been my little journey, and the potholes that I've stepped in, and the fucking scars and mistakes that I've made, almost crashing the whole company in the ground. That was a leadership issue. That was 100% my fault on leadership, for hiring the wrong people, not inspecting what I expected, and not guiding them in the right way. And dude, it almost cost me the whole company.
Yeah, man.
Shit sucked.
That's a trip. Because I know leadership is like, it's super scary. Like, it is to me. Like, you said that in the beginning, you're like, I don't know if I was scared. Like, to me, it is scary. Like, when I was, like, throughout my life, like, my mom's like, you're just like a natural born leader, in the aspect, like, when you're little, like, you just do what you do. But I never felt that way. I felt like you, where I just wanted to, I'll do my job, and I'll do a great job, but you just got to tell me what to do and I'll go do it. But then there are certain times when I know there's not a leader around, like, all right, fuck it. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll step up. And I think it's just taking that action of, like, to me, it's like, sometimes you get sick and tired. You just got to be that person where, like, fuck it. Kind of like where you said, like, the Tigers, like, you fuck you, get out of my way if you don't like the way we do it. Yeah. But that's the way sometimes no one's going to step up. You have to do it. Or you kind of just get over the fact, it's like, dude, quit being a pussy. Just, it's your time to shine. Like, go do your shit. Like, it's your life. Go for it. So I really think leadership it's a scary adventure, but because when it fails on you, And I think a huge part of being a great leader is, like, leaders listen, especially to their employees and things like that, people that work with them. Because if you're always that big head honcho, like, you might call it, like, make a good shot and be like, yeah, like, I knew it, blah, blah, blah. But if, like, you don't know what's happening, it feels scary, but you can just ask the people that are in the trenches with you, like, what do you think? You know? And they'll be like, oh, he cares about my opinion. I'm going to give my best opinion, Yeah. And they care about the company. If you hire the right people, they'll listen.
The problem with being that type of leader where everything's on you and you make all the decisions and fuck everybody, you don't take any advice, you don't need to listen to anybody. The problem with that type of style is the company will never get bigger than you. It'll never become better than you are. Whereas if you have a whole group of people, of really good people who know that their insight is valued and are able to speak up and step up, now you can have all the areas that you're weak in, you can have people step into those positions who are better than you. So now the power players that you can bring to the table for the whole company is elevated so much more because you got people who are strong in so many different areas. Where if it's just you and I'm the leader, I need to be the best. It's always my decision. Like, or we always make my decision at the end. It's like, dude, that's not. You're limiting yourself, you know? So I'm the ego. I got the big ego. It's my fucking way or the highway. Like, yeah, that's useful sometimes. And you do need to have that tool in your back pocket. But that's a fucking sledgehammer, dude. And if you use a sledgehammer all the time, you have nothing left, you know? A hammer's a great tool. You can build a house with it, but you also need other tools. You know, you can't do everything with the hammer. Yeah. And the problem too is you have an ego like that, like a big sledgehammer. That old saying, like, to the man with the hammer, every problem looks like a nail. You just start smashing shit. I'm like, dude, you're just going to smash your own company if you end up like that. So I think you do have to find that balance that fits with your style. I know for me, I was just realizing through listening to you talk about it that it was judgment that I was afraid of because I'd always been judging people who were leading me. Right. And a lot of times, you know, sometimes I didn't appreciate they were actually good leaders. Oh. I was a dumbass. But honestly, sometimes looking back, now being in a leadership position, a lot of them are just shitty fucking leaders. And I was judging them on being shitty leaders. And I was afraid of that judgment as well. But also too, just if you want to build anything big, you just have to step into it. And you have to realize that like that's a part of the thing. You cannot build something big without being open to judgment from others. Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are thrown into leadership, you know, where it's like, I started this company, so I'm the fucking leader. Like, okay, good luck, you know, but if you're not good with people, you're fucked. Like, I don't care who you are, you're fucked. Like, you can have great ideas, but like having the team around, and like, it always goes back to like, I say you're fucked because we talked about before, you can make all the money in the world and have a successful company, but no one fucking likes you. And you could be like, oh, who gives a shit? I make so much money. No one likes you. Yeah. Like your kids really don't like you. Yeah. Like legit, like you're fucked in that area of life, you know? So it's like, you got to be a good leader. And something that you said that like really stuck out to me, it made sense early on in my like business. And I'm so glad you told me was the whole 80-90% of a project, because I'm in the creative space. So my projects, they just escape, you know, like they're not done, they escape. So I'm like really happy with them. But when I was like, I can't scale by myself. It's impossible to scale as like a video creator by yourself. You can't do it. Yeah. And, but yeah, to give people the reins of editors that they can go do it. But once I realized like, 80-90%, you just try it. Just go do it. Let the client see it. And if they're like, oh, this is not good, then it's like, okay, like why not? And try to like get it in that 80-90 of where it's comfortable. They might need a different thing for your editor, but then they'll be like, oh shit, this is really good. Yeah. Oh, sick. Now I can find another editor that, you know, now you can scale. Yeah.
As long as the client is, if they think it's 100%, if they're happy with 100%, dude, that's a win. Even if you're like, oh, it could have been better here, it could have been better there. Honestly, sometimes you're just wasting your own time and the client's time because a lot of the client doesn't care about a lot of shit.
But I think, it's huge to keep that though. Yeah. You know, have that mindset of always, you know, so I've known people where they're like, they do it and then they kind of like, they plateau and they're like, that's the reason is because you kind of like
you're not willing to let off the reins. You know, a lot of super creative people are like that, but that's also why it's really hard to scale a creative business because you have to understand that concept. I find that like because we do mass production for a lot of people, and even our own brand will do a lot on like the next level 6210s, which are great t-shirts, but they're personally not my favorite. Like I don't wear them. I only wear like 100% cotton t-shirts. For some reason, like the polyester, I just don't like the way it fits and feels. But yeah, I mean, this John Barbados shirt, it's a fucking $125 t-shirt, which is stupid. But I'm like, dude, I'm a t-shirt guy and I'm a t-shirt nerd. I'm like, oh, look at the fucking blind hem stitching. Look at the fucking raw hem. Look at this shit. I'm all nerding out on it. It's a Megadeth. I'm like, bro, this is my shit. So I'm willing to pay that to do that. And there are certain aspects, certain elements and designs within our line of industry that I go all out on, where we do have the blind hem stitching, we have the grinded collars, we have like the 100% super high end Peruvian cotton. Like, that's where I nerd out on it. But they don't sell, you know. They'll sell like maybe like one t-shirt a month, you know.
Is that like premium though?
Super premium. Yeah. They're like John Barbados shirts, you know. And but I love that. But I just do those for myself, like really low volume, just just for myself, like that's my creative thing. That's my 100%, right?
Yeah.
But that's not really, I don't expect everybody to nerd out on the t-shirts the way I do. So I just do those for my own stuff. And if somebody else likes them, awesome, cool.
Yeah.
But most people just like the regular 6210s, normal shirts. I'm like, cool, so I think as a creative, I think it's important to do both. Like you have to do those projects where like you stretch your leg and you go 100% on, where you can like really like stretch your vision, you know? But then you also have stuff that's for mass produce and like makes the clients and customers happy. Like, but I do find it's useful to have both, because otherwise you lose the spark, you know? You lose the fire, you lose the passion for it. And that's a dangerous place to be too.
Yeah. I was listening on the way here. Another great podcast, Mapping It Out.
That's ours, by the way. Thanks for listening.
That's what you're listening to right now. But no, there's a great podcast called How I Built This with Guy Raz. Yeah. So he was talking, I think the newest episode was the creator of Roku, the streaming TV, like and it was
way better than Apple, dude. Fucking hate Apple TV.
And he was talking like the first company that he sold, it was way before that, and he sold it for $36 million. And
nice.
It was cool to listen to it because like, I sold it for $36 million, but I had an employee agreement where he had to go work with them, that company that bought him out. And I was like, oh, I know what he's talking about. It's not like, oh, they wrote him a fat check. It's like, no, your agreement, you go work 5 years and blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, that's cool. But he said with this first software he was building, he didn't know how to build the software, but he had friends that could do it. So he was like that leader. And he said, but he hired out the people that could do it. And then whoever built it, the software and the hardware, then he sold it. But he didn't know how to do it, you know? But he had the idea, and it's finding those right people to go do it. So a huge thing for me was, if you don't know all the answers, you can go figure it out. Yeah. You don't have to learn how to create an app. There's people out there on Fiverr that are really good at it, really fast at it, and like affordable. You don't have to learn how to make that. You know, like
Steve Jobs wasn't a programmer.
Exactly.
You know, Wozniak was the genius behind that, but Jobs was the genius in like the marketing and creating the products. And Wozniak was the genius that made those crazy ideas happen. But you said something a few minutes ago that really struck home. You said, you feel like people are thrown into leadership. I think everybody's thrown into leadership, whether you have a company or not. Like if you have friends, you're in a leadership position. You have family, you're in a leadership position. And I was realizing that that's kind of the position that I found myself in when I was with Disney, and kind of showing her like, oh, this is how a company works. This is what we do. This is how we do it. And then giving her the autonomy and control to make changes and adjust things and grow herself. But I think if you have anybody in your circle, leadership is really about communication. It's about influencing people to align them on an outcome that you're wanting to get, right? Whether it's, you know, taking that hill or creating this project or, you know, creating a company or maybe just like cooking dinner together. Like your job as a leader is to get people aligned with the goal and figure out what do they want and how can you give it to them by achieving the goal that you set forth. And that's through communication. You really have to understand people, understand what drives them, what their fears are, and find a way to show them that they can achieve and get what they want through your decision and your path. You know, that's leadership, just influence.
How is it with Disney? How was it as like, that's your girlfriend, right? They come on board to work with you, or with you, not they don't work for you. But leading your girlfriend in that way, you know, being a lead, how is that? Is it a weird transition, or is it more like, like she works really well here where I'm not the best at, and it just kind of worked together perfectly?
We had to find our roles and what we're good at and what we're not good at. And thankfully, she's just naturally really good at like systems and processes. I'm okay at it, but what I do is like, I'll fly, you know, 100 miles an hour, a bunch of different directions. And I'll grab onto something and I'll build it out super fast. And then I lose focus. And that's the point I hand it off to her. And then she builds it out. And she's like, okay, cool. We'll do this. We'll add this. We'll tweak this. And so she's really, really good at that. But I have a limited bandwidth on things that I can focus on for that long. So now with industry, that's kind of what I was doing. I was doing all this shit and trying to figure out what works. We stuck on this one business model. Like, cool, let's build it out. And then that's exactly what she did. And now she's built out like really, really intricate systems and processes. But also they're very like bulletproof too. And we're always tweaking them, because sometimes with a system or a process, you can make it so mechanical that technically it's bulletproof. But if you don't account for the human element of it, like a human only has a certain amount of bandwidth that they can focus on before they'll lose it or they'll make a mistake. So if you don't allow for human action or interaction within the system or process, it's going to break down at some point. So you can't pull the human element out, even though that's the goal, is to reduce the human error part of it. So it's everything's a balance, dude. You know, and leadership is probably one of the most difficult balances, because you have to weigh not just what you want and your vision, but you have to explain your vision to other people in a way that is weighted to what they want. So you have to understand what they want and then show them how they're going to achieve that through your vision. It's fucking hard, dude. It's really hard to do that. That's why communication's like one of the most important things.
Like me and you, like we can talk about leadership of like how we work with our companies and our businesses, but like how should people react when their boss, that they don't own their own company, but they work for somebody like that's an asshole, that's a not a good leader. You know, you can't really go up to your boss and be like, hey, like
you suck.
Right? Like there's sometimes
you can do that probably once.
I have friends coming to me like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's so funny when I hear my friends talk about their bosses. I'm just like, I would want my employees to tell me certain shit. You know, it's how you it's what you said, it's how you communicate. Coda, this isn't working, man. Like, oh, like why not? You know, like to me, it's that way. Some of these people are like, you don't know, you're young, you're stupid, you just don't get this business. You know,
well,
it's like
leadership is influence. And so influence goes both ways. You can influence down, you can influence up. So in that case, if you have a leader who say is making the wrong decisions, like say you have intimate knowledge, like they're telling you, okay, we want to go this direction or do this thing, and you have knowledge like, well, this is a dumb decision because this is not going to work, and here's why. To be a leader and to influence up, you go to them. I mean, look, I want to accomplish this project for you. I think this is great if we can do this. I'm running into this problem here. Here's what I think we could do to do workaround. Do you want us to do this? So that way you can influence up, say, because you're aligning your goal with theirs. What you're saying the way up is, I agree, I want to go here. Here's this roadblock. Help me solve it. And you're giving them the solution. You're giving them the execution to tell you, yeah, do it, so they can have it in their mind. It's their idea. Because a lot of those bosses like that, it's all just an ego play. So even if they know it's the right answer, they won't say yes to it unless you frame it in a way to where they can take power or control over it. And if you really want, if you want to be right, you just got to leave the company. But if you want to accomplish the goal, then that's a good way to get them on your side. And if you do that enough, eventually they'll see you as a person to go to, and they'll start to listen to you. And then you can work your way up. That comes with compensation. It comes with higher executive positions. And next thing you know, you're running shit. So you can influence up. You just have to understand how that person operates and present them the information in a way that they're going to be open to it.
That's good.
But yeah, leadership is influence. Influence goes everywhere. Because
when I was working at my other jobs before I started my own company, I was never afraid to go talk to the boss and be like, a problem's here, right? I don't know. Like I would just talk. If they got mad at me, I would laugh. I would not in front of them. I'd just be like, I planted a seed at least. You know, but if they can't have a real conversation with their employee that cares, there's a problem, right? And if it happens over and over and over again, fucking leave, because that's your cap. That's where your cap is. If you're really, because so many employees are scared to talk to their boss. But if you just talk to them, is it like, hey, I care about this too, like you just said. And if they're still like whatever, like it's not going to work because this, and they just give that cold shoulder over and over, fucking leave.
Yeah.
Like
that's the beautiful thing about being an employee. Like you can just leave, you know, like, you don't have to stay there. If your boss sucks, dude, like, fuck, come work for us. I suck less. I wouldn't say I'm good. I just suck less. You know?
More fun here.
Sometimes that's the goal, you know?
Yeah.
You don't have to be good. Like you just have to suck less than everyone else.
Yeah, man.
But you should shoot for good.
Yeah.
Shoot for fucking excellence.
I think it was cool where you said someone worked for you for a bit, but then their things that lined up with a different company that they loved.
Yeah.
You know? And I think it's kind of the both ways where it's like, I might not make as much money as at this company I'm fucking miserable at, but man, if I got a 20% cut, that's a bitch. But I love going to that company because we're growing something. I love people. I love the family. I love the culture.
Yeah.
When I go to work, it doesn't feel like work, the whole cliche, but still like you have to have that fun environment. And yet I feel like that comes from the leader, you know?
Yeah. And it's just conversations, man. Like that was our warehouse manager and he left to go take a lower paying job, slightly lower paying in a similar position. But it's with a company he really, like he loved their mission.
Right.
He loves their product and he's been involved with them for years anyway. And the opportunity came up to work with them. But that was an example of leadership going up from him. So he's like, he told us, he's like, hey, look, I've got this opportunity. I love you guys and I love being here. But I feel like I wouldn't be following my heart if I said no to this opportunity. But I'm going to give you guys like a month. I'm going to help train people. I'm going to get and he helped us get everybody ready for the transition. And dude, I'm super happy for him, dude. I'm not like mad at him. Like he was hugely impactful in our whole operation for years. And it's a major changes and decisions for us that were incredibly important for the company. So I'm not mad that he left. I'm thankful that I got him for the time he's here. And I'm super stoked that he's going to a new place that he's fucking happy with and he's progressing. Whether he makes more or less money is like, that's his decision to make. But either way, if he's happy about it, then I'm happy about it. And I thought the way that he did it was a great example of like leadership going up. And it was a good conversation, you know?
Communicated.
Yeah, I know.
He didn't say like, oh, see you, Ryan. It's like, dude, like he just talked to you like as a human. Like, this is what I'm like. If you, I understand if you're kind of upset, but like I'm here to help as much as I can before I go. But like some people are like, I think that's what a lot of people do too, is when they're scared of their leader, their boss, they don't want to have like that real conversation, so they get like nervous. Yeah. So I just want to separate, so it's easier. That makes them feel like, oh, that's when they're like the boss is like talk shit on you.
Yeah, because a lot of bosses don't set it up to where people feel open talking to them, and the reason that worked so well when he exited was that I think he'd seen us in enough situations where he felt comfortable trusting us to be like, you know what, I think they'll understand and want this for me as well. And he was totally right. We had a great conversation about it, and he totally helped us with the transition. And now he's kicking ass in his new job. I'm like, dude, that's a win-win. You know, it doesn't have to be like this bad breakup. You know, it doesn't have to be terrible. Most of our employees that have left, like I'm super happy that they're going off and doing all this stuff. Like just because you fire somebody, they quit. It's like you're killing them. You know, it's like they're dying.
Yeah, dude. We were filming yesterday, Undercover Project.
Oh yeah, all right. Oh yeah.
You said build bridges, don't burn them. Yeah, and that's a huge one because it's like you're gonna have fucking things fuck up in your life, relationships where it's like, yeah, you don't need them, but you can just put a sign up, like, don't go down that road. Like, but you don't have to burn them completely. Yeah. But I was like, damn, it's so true. Because later in life, you might want to be like, oh, take that sign down. I'm glad that bridge is still there. Dude, you know? Yeah. So it's kind of.
And you burn bridges too, man. You never know what that bridge is connected to, you know? Because like, in fact, I was listening to Andy's podcast, Real AF, on the way in here. And he was talking about the relationship, like B2B suppliers and B2C customers. And he's like, yeah, dude, like all these suppliers, like at a certain level, they all know each other. Like we know a lot of people in the apparel industry and the military, military entrepreneurship space. And we got burned by a few people. And like, word gets out. Word gets fucking out. And like all these people that burn bridges with us, I'm like, dude, fucking head's been put on a spike one way or another, you know? Like we're not a person that like you want to burn a bridge with, because we help everybody out. And like, that's why like I have no problem fucking people over who fuck with us, because I know that we do everything right. We'll bend over backwards to help people out. Even if they're kind of dicks, like we'll help them out. But as soon as they fuck with us, oh dude, we're going to go fucking scorched earth on them. But that's like, people don't understand that like, oh, it's just business. It's not just business. No. Like business is people, dude. Business is relationships.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because it's like, if I called somebody right now for like a cold call that I want to get a client from, right? You get the gatekeeper right on the phone. It's like a different type of gatekeeper. where it's like Andy Frisell, like, I know like everybody, you know, it's like, you don't want to burn those fucking bridges because those bridges lead to other, like the 6th degree of separation.
Yeah.
You burn one of those motherfuckers, like, oh, there goes your other one. And now they know who you are.
Oh, exactly, dude.
And, you know, so it's like, those are another gatekeepers, you know?
Dude, it's not hard to just do the fucking right thing, you know? Like, it's not fucking hard.
No.
Like, God damn, man. Like, yeah, it's people are normally only as faithful as their opportunities, whether it's in a personal relationship or a business relationship. And it takes a strong person to do the right thing when they have the opportunity to not do the right thing and benefit themselves. But also, I think that's probably why we have the relationships that we have with people, and we have the people on our team that we do, is because we make those hard decisions and we do the right thing, even if it is hard, even if we have to take a hit financially or take a hit on time or effort or whatever it is. Like, we always do the right thing. And I think that's why, like, our warehouse manager was comfortable coming to us and letting us know what was going on, because he trusted us to do the right thing. But you have to build that into the culture. You have to build that into the communication and the relationships you have with your team and your people and everybody, so that they know that. Because otherwise they're just going to think like, oh, I don't want to tell them this because they're just going to fuck me over, or they're going to, you know, do this bad thing. And like, yeah, it's not complicated. Just do the right thing.
Amen.
Right? Fuck,
Like,
dude.
it's so true. Yeah.
It's not fucking hard.
No, it's not. All right, before we wrap up, book on leadership that stands out to you that you recommend?
I'm still learning leadership. In fact, I have not read a book on leadership that I thought was like, oh, this is fucking great. But I did learn a lot from Jocko's podcast.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning when I was trying to figure out like how to fucking communicate, how to do stuff. He is exceptionally good at that. I've seen him I went to a live event one time in LA. And he was up there, and people generally ask, you know, entrepreneurship questions. I can normally, no matter who's answering, I can usually figure out like what the answer is going to be, because entrepreneurship shit is, you know, fairly simple, but leadership solutions are not as simple because people are fucking complicated. And somebody was asking him, they had a Q&A session at the end, and somebody got up on the mic and asked him a very, very intricate, very difficult leadership question about the situation he was in. And I was like, shit, man, I don't know I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how I would handle this particular situation. And Jocko just like eloquently nailed it. I then brought up a solution that, I would have taken me a week to try to figure out. And he just off the cuff knew it. I was like, fuck, dude. All right. I got a lot to learn on the leadership stuff. So I'm still,
is that something that you discussed with me a bit, but you'll hear a question like an interview or a podcast, you'll try to answer it before them, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of how I gauge like where I'm at in my learning. And yeah, the entrepreneurship stuff is it's not very complicated. So it's easy to get, you know, the learning curve on that is fairly quick, but the leadership stuff is much more complex and much more difficult. So I wouldn't even say I'm a good leader at all right now. I know like I said, self-awareness is a superpower. I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not good at. And I'm very aware of my weaknesses. And I always try to chip away at those, and I try to get better at them all the time. And I think I'm getting a lot better than I was. Like I said, I wouldn't say that I'm good, but I would say that I'm a lot better than I used to be, and I'm on track to getting acceptable.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude.
I'm like 60-70% right now. Shooting for 80 or 90.
Always growing, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing, dude. Like, but I think part of just my mindset, I'm so analytical and logic driven that it's really difficult for me to understand most other people's perspective, because most people don't operate by pure logic like I do. They have emotion, all these other things mixed in, and family and friends and like all this shit. And to me, I find it very frustrating when there's a very logical choice to be made and people don't see it. So that's I think why I've had a particularly difficult time understanding the leadership dynamic, is because I think very differently from most people. And so that's been a challenge of me to like, how does a normal person think? You know, because I'm too much like a fucking robot.
Dude, there's for my side, the video side, I always watch documentaries. I always like that shit. Like that's where you get the best insight. If you're wanting to watch a really good one, leadership, The Last Dance with the Chicago Bulls.
Oh,
Michael Jordan, Pippen, and Dennis Rodman.
Tim Grover too,
Yeah, Grover's in it. And Phil. They just talk about what we talked about in the aspect of everyone knows Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. But he couldn't have done it by himself, you know? But he had to be that leader with all this other great talent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, go watch The Last Dance. I think it's 5 episodes, but it's fucking worth it.
It's great. That's a good point. I watched it and it was really, I loved it, but I didn't look at it from a leadership perspective. And now that you mentioned it, that's totally could be there.
Because Pippen, like Dennis, like they're amazing, but they weren't. They were there to do a job, right? They were good at what they did, but Michael was a superstar and wasn't always the best leader. He was like, people call him selfish, ball hog, whatever, big headed. But Phil said, man, you got to work on this shit because they'll follow you. And they followed him, you know? So it's like, that's what I took away from that thing. It's like the leadership of like how people respond to you. You know, it's crazy.
The influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. But yeah, leadership is, if you guys are struggling with leadership, you're not alone.
No.
I think everybody's struggling with it. That's probably why Jocko's podcast is so big. Because I mean, he's fucking world class at it. He's amazing at it. And there are other people too. I think Ed Milet is phenomenal at like, if you can watch him live and like how he like guides a person through coming up with their own answers. Really amazing. Andy's got a phenomenal leadership style as well. I think Andy's a great example of like knowing your strengths and playing to your strengths and then building a team around your strengths of equally strong people in other areas. And Ed's got a different approach and Jocko's got a different approach. But that's the thing, man. Like you just got to find your own style and find that balance of like too loose on the reins and too tight on the reins. And with different people, because everybody on your team is going to need a slightly different touch too. But it's up to you. If you want to build something big, you got to understand what that touch is and talk with them and communicate with them in a way that's going to have maximum influence on them and align them to the goals that you have for the company.
It was just funny that you said that because in part of the documentary, they were doing well. I forget what year they were, but the Bulls and Rodman's like, I need to get away for a little bit, and it's like during I think playoffs.
Oh yeah,
and he's just like
he just went and trashed himself in Vegas.
He's like, Coach Phil's like, let him go to Vegas for 24 hours. Give it to him. Let him do it. And he went. I think he spent way longer than that. But Michael's like, you're never going to see that motherfucker again. You're never. But that he came back and balled out. Like he did his thing. But it's like, you're right. Not everyone's going to be on this baseline of like what it is. Some people are going to be wanting a little bit more push. Some people a little bit more micromanaged to get them in that aspect of, it's just like everyone's different. But that's a great leader.
That's why I think if you want to build something big, I think you have to develop a good range as a leader. And honestly, this is the best time to do it because you've got so many good people to look up to and that you can follow from that you might not even know, but you've got all these people on social media that put out great content that you can learn from for fucking free. Dude, it's a great time to be able to find these solutions. It's really rare. This hasn't existed before in the history of the world. So I hope people appreciate the time that we're living through right now.
Take advantage of them.
Cool. Yeah, I do. I listen to all that shit, man.
Yeah, it's the best. They just want you to succeed. So like us, we just want you to succeed.
Yes, and like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe, please.
How many subscribers do we have now? Do we check?
One.
We're 103 now.
Nah, I think we're 108.
All right, yeah, dude. I got 7 more.
Yeah.
I think one of those is me.
Yeah. 5 of them are me. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So 180, thank you so much. You guys other listening, if you dug it, please share with somebody and subscribe so that we can feel better about ourselves.
I wish we could see, because way more views on like the podcast side. YouTube's different where it's like, YouTube's that, but it's like, no, like the views are coming from the podcast, the Spotify and Apple. So it's like, we appreciate you motherfuckers.
That's right, man. Thanks for tuning in. I know it's an investment of your time, about 45 minutes every time, but hopefully you guys are getting something out of it. And we enjoy these conversations too.
All the time. Helps me out.
Yeah,
always
get clarity on stuff.
Exactly.
Perfect.
If you guys have any questions, DM us, me or Ryan, and just send us a video with your question, and then you'll be featured on one of the episodes, and we'll do a deep dive or a dive into your business, your social media, and kind of just give you a rundown of the question that you have. We'll answer it, but also give you a little bit extra to help you out.
That's right.
Cool.
All right, man.
All right, man.
Shake and bake.
Shake and bake.